My name is Mike Beam. I'm CIB's program director, and today we have the inaugural CIB Best Doctoral Research Award presentations. You will hear from three outstanding early career researchers who have made it through the competition this far. And I'll introduce our judges who are here today as well momentarily. And I'm here joined by our communications and marketing director, Debbie Gray, and our CEO, Don Ward. Welcome. We're going to hear 8-minute presentations from our three finalists, and we'll have a short Q&A from our judges. Perhaps there will be time for a quick question from the audience in that 4 minutes. I will be very strict, and I've explained to our candidates that I will be very, very strict with them on 8 minutes. So if I am rude, you will absolutely know why. Please refer to the beginning of this presentation why I might be a little bit rude with them if they go over. So without further ado, I want to introduce our judges. Our three who have done an incredible job, a very difficult job, weeding through many applications to get to this point, varied applications. You can imagine the types of topics that come in from around the world, around the broad topic of the built environment. And so our judges have done an absolutely wonderful job. Firstly is Dr. Graham Larson, faculty at the University College of Estate Management in Reading in the UK. He is the coordinator of W065, Organizational and Management in Construction. Our second judge is Dr. Theo Haupt, who's a research professor in engineering at Mangosuthu University of Technology, or MUT, in South Africa. Theo is also a current CIB board member. Our third judge is Dr. Andrew Agapu from the Department of Architecture at the University of Strathclyde in Scotland. He is the coordinator of W113, Law and Dispute Resolution. Welcome to our judges, and thank you so much. And we will, after the presentations, we will be off into a private room to discuss who our winner is. We will announce all three are absolutely winners here today. They will walk away with a prize. There will be one inaugural Best Doctoral Research Award winner today who will walk away with a prize of 1,500 euros, and our runners-up will walk away with 500 euros. So that, I hope, is exciting. And leave me without further ado, and in order of their presentations, I am going to introduce our finalists. Dr. Jessica Board completed her PhD at RMIT University in 2020 and is now a lecturer of organization, work, and management at RMIT. Welcome, Dr. Board. Dr. Ahmed Dawood completed his PhD at London South Bank University in 2021 and is an assistant professor in the Civil Engineering Department at the British University of Egypt. Welcome, Dr. Dawood.
Thank you.
Dr. Esmail Eftekharian completed his PhD in infrastructure engineering at Western Sydney University in 2021 and is currently a senior postdoctoral research associate in the School of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. Welcome to everybody. We have 33 participants here to hear outstanding and varied presentations. And so without further ado, I'd like to invite, we'll go with Dr. Borg, and then with Dr. Dawood, and then with Dr. Eftekharian. And we will have 4 minutes allotted for questions after their presentation. So Dr. Borg, and I will start the clock when you begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Can everyone see my slides now?
Yes.
Great. I'll begin. Thank you, Michael. I'm pleased to be here today to present to you my PhD research. My PhD explored the work readiness of project management graduates in construction. It was a multivocal, multi-method qualitative study. To begin, we know that 21st century workplaces are becoming more project-centric. We're seeing more individuals pursuing project management careers than ever before. And within construction in particular, the demand for project management professionals is high. There have been increasing calls from industry for graduates that possess the skills required, yet research on the work readiness of graduates in the built environment and construction remains scarce. My PhD study addresses this gap by exploring work readiness within the project management discipline and construction industry. And so it makes a contribution to the advancement of knowledge on work readiness in construction. But before we go too much further, I just want to define work readiness. It is an essential component of performing well at work, and it constitutes a range of attributes which encompass values, behaviours, and skills that facilitate a successful transition into the workplace. Project management in construction is an important and topical context. We're seeing educators facing the challenge of training future construction professionals without clear guidance on what these graduates actually need in the industry. And on the flip side of that, we see employers facing the challenge of recruiting individuals who do not always possess the skills needed in the industry. And so there's a knowledge gap with regards to how well equipped graduating construction professionals are for work. We know from research that work readiness is better realised through the consideration of key stakeholder perspectives. Yet key stakeholder perspectives remain largely missing from the literature, especially within project management and construction. This figure here illustrates my research objectives. It was my proposed framework for providing a holistic perspective of work readiness in construction. So in my research, I looked at work readiness from the perspective of educators, students, graduates or alumni who are working in the industry after graduating, the employers of those graduates, and professional bodies. My research aim was to explore the work readiness of project management graduates in the construction industry. And my main research question, as you can see there, was how well aligned are the stakeholders' perspectives of the work readiness of project management undergraduates seeking a career in the Australian construction industry. In the top right-hand corner there on the screen, you'll see my additional sub-research questions. And the main focus was on looking at the alignments of work readiness attributes embedded in undergraduate project management degrees, looking at the alignments of the perspectives of key stakeholders regarding what work readiness constitutes in the construction industry, and finally looking at how project management undergraduates' work readiness can be enhanced for the benefit of all key stakeholders. In terms of my research methodology, the research strategy entailed a multi-method qualitative approach which encompassed 3 interdependent research phases. Phase 1, which I named the University Program Study, entailed document analysis of 14 undergraduate degrees across 12 universities in Australia. And the aim here was to look at the work readiness attributes that were embedded in the program and course learning outcomes of these degrees. The second phase of the research entailed a holistic embedded case study. And as part of this phase, I conducted 75 in-depth interviews with individuals across the 5 stakeholder groups I mentioned. So that was 75 interviews with educators, students, graduates, employers, and professional body representatives. And finally, for phase 3, the focus group study, I conducted a focus group with individuals which represented all of those 5 key stakeholder groups. I now want to touch on some of my research findings. This here is a thematic map which represents some alignments in key stakeholder perspectives as generated from my research findings. So we see that all of the stakeholders, if you look at that middle circle there, all of the stakeholders agreed that effective communication, problem solving and management, and foundational disciplinary knowledge were key work readiness attributes required for project managers in construction. There were other attributes as well, which I'll touch on later, but all of the stakeholders agreed on everything that you see here. So for example, if we look at the top circle there, the educator's role, all of the stakeholders agreed that educators had a role in providing career education, facilitating industry engagement, viewing and refreshing curriculum, and reflecting industry practice. If we look at the bottom circle there, all stakeholders agreed that employers had a role in offering training and mentoring initiatives and engaging with universities. And All stakeholders also agreed that professional bodies had a role in channeling dialogue between stakeholders. For early career project managers working in construction, my research findings showed that work readiness entails the following attributes: effective communication, problem solving and management, foundational disciplinary knowledge, professional conduct, professional software competency, a passionate disposition, and resilience. My findings also showed that stakeholders value work readiness, but that there is limited collaboration among stakeholders for its enhancement. My study advocates for ongoing and topical discussion of work readiness requirements within a project management and construction context among the stakeholder groups. And so my research also generated evidence-based recommendations made to each stakeholder group for the purposes of enhancing work readiness. Here's an example of some of the recommendations that were made to professional bodies. These included investing in the work readiness of emerging professionals, engaging with students early on in their construction degrees, becoming a lead advocate for greater ongoing collaboration between the key stakeholders for the purposes of work readiness enhancement in construction, and commissioning research into enhancement of work readiness within construction. In terms of the key implications for research and practice generated out of my PhD, in putting forward evidence-based recommendations, which can be exercised by the 5 key stakeholder groups, this research encourages a collective collaborative strategy to enhance the work readiness of graduates in construction. It also sheds light on work readiness in construction, resulting or having the potential to result in better informed future generations, future professionals wishing to pursue careers in the industry. And in providing a holistic understanding of the work readiness of project management graduates, key stakeholders are better equipped to foster work readiness and cater to the skill development needs of construction graduates. My research resulted in research outputs in the form of 6 academic publications and 2 industry reports. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you for on time, 7 minutes and 50 seconds. Outstanding. I would love to turn it over to our judges for 4 minutes of questions. Judges, do you have any questions? Andrew.
Jessica, thanks very much for a great presentation. I really enjoyed listening to the overview and what you've done and how you've done it and the outputs. So I read a little bit around your subject area. I've actually read some of your work that you've published. So congratulations on all the publications that you've managed to get out there already. I had a question about the university setting. So if you were going to redesign a curriculum, project management curriculum, and you were to design it in a robust format, robust way, what would it look like? What would be the key components of a new redesigned curriculum for project managers?
Thank you, Andrew. Great question. I think based on the research findings, the key thing that comes out is that curriculum should be informed by discussions with key stakeholders, both in terms of industry, who universities producing work-ready graduates, so there really needs to be more consultation with industry in terms of the skills that they need the graduates to be graduating with, but also increased discourse with alumni. So actually having a feedback channel where graduates can inform the university, their educators, on what worked, what was really good about the degree, what they found useful when they graduated, and what perhaps wasn't useful and what could be improved. So I think the curriculum as a whole and project management curriculum, which was what I've focused on, certainly could be better informed by increased discourse between those key stakeholders. That's certainly what the research showed. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you. And Graham. Graham.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, super. Thanks, Jessica. Very interesting. I'm very impressed with the amount of empirical data you had there. 75 interviews, trying to analyze 75 interviews in a rigorous way must have been quite a challenge. My question was around the current body of knowledge on project management. So when you look at the literature around project management, there's a growing kind of movement, if you like, away from project solving towards project structuring. And I was wondering if you had any kind of thoughts related to that, about where your work sits within the body of knowledge, because you seem to focus on the problem solving aspect rather than the project structuring aspect.
Thanks, Graham. Another great question. Project structuring. I am aware that there is an increasing body of knowledge moving towards that. It wasn't something that that was raised in the interviews by the stakeholders, my interviews were semi-structured, in depth in that I let the data, and inductive in that I let the data come from the interviews and the participants. I think certainly as the knowledge continues to evolve, one of the things that I found was that obviously the curriculum needs to continue to evolve. So the work readiness attributes I came up with that the research generated aren't static, and that's not going to work for project managers for the next 10 years or so. Certainly it's something that we need to keep going back to these stakeholders with and seeing how these work readiness attributes evolve. And what should be the key focus areas of project managers. In this case, project structuring didn't come up in my interviews, but it's certainly something that would be great to look at going forward.
Okay, if I could just say it's interesting because they almost talk about the issues of project structuring, but then default to the term of project solving, which is kind of strange. But you know, the work of, say, Julian Pollock is amazing. I point you in that direction. He's in your neck of the woods.
I'm sorry, this is a great discussion, but we need to move on. And
sorry.
We'll have to go to, but no worries. We'll have to go to questions. I'm sorry, Theo, and I'm sorry to our audience. We'll have to take some questions a little bit later. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ahmed Dawood, who will be our second presenter for 8 minutes. And you've probably seen me with my red thing, so that's great. And we will definitely go to Theo for the first question if he has one at this presentation. Dr. Dawood, you are.
Can I share my screen?
I believe it's at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Is the share screen function? Something good is happening. Yes, sir. We see your slides coming up.
So 1 minute, please. Shall I start?
Yes, I'll begin the timer now. Thank you.
Good morning, professors. It's my pleasure and great honor to present my pitch today in front of all of you, given the well-established experience. I'm Ahmed Dawood, an assistant professor at the British University in Egypt, and my research topic is material and conceptual framework for minimizing waste in the Egyptian construction industry. Today's presentation's outline consists of 6 main sections as shown in this slide. Each section will be discussed in detail in the next slides. First, research background. The construction industry is one of the most significant industries contributing to countries' social and economic development. It provides a community with high living standards by providing society with socio-economic projects and infrastructure facilities such as roads, hospitals, and schools. In Egypt, the construction industry plays a prominent role in the growth of the Egyptian economy. It contributes 5% of the total GDP and employs about 11% of Egypt's total population. Unfortunately, construction demolition waste is a growing challenge the whole globe faces. According to the latest report published by the World Bank, the amount of the generated waste worldwide will increase from 1.3 billion tons to 2.2 billion tons by 2025, in which about 50% of it is construction demolition waste. It's worth mentioning that the waste in total materials cost must not exceed 4% under any circumstances. However, in Egypt, the situation is very critical, in which up to 40% of total construction material cost is wasted. Presently, the Egyptian government is building many mega projects following Egypt's Sustainable Development Strategy 2030. Unfortunately, significant construction and demolition waste are being generated at the different stages of the construction process. It has been claimed that the increasing demand for executing mega projects will necessarily require the use of more materials and resources, which consequently will lead to the generation of more construction and demolition waste. Unfortunately, dumping is the dominant practice of dealing with construction and demolition waste, not only in Egypt, but worldwide. To solve this problem, reduction technique is the most preferable approach based on the waste management hierarchy. Problem statement and knowledge gap. The literature review revealed different methodologies and strategies which could help greatly minimizing construction and demolition waste in Egyptian construction industry. Examples of these methods are industrialization, computer integrated construction, constructability, and partnership. Few researchers focused on minimizing waste during materials procurement stage, which is a critical interface between design and construction stages. It has been proved that materials procurement plays an important role in construction demolition waste reduction. It affects 50% of the total project cost. Additionally, inefficient materials procurement contributes up to 11% of total construction demolition waste generation. There are other surrounding external factors affecting construction demolition waste reduction, such as legislation, culture and behavior, and awareness. Unfortunately, the construction demolition waste management research in Egypt lacks studies investigating the relationship between these different factors and construction demolition waste reduction. Theoretical framework. Based on the explored literature, a theoretical framework is built along with the corresponding hypotheses. This framework depends mainly on 6 main factors consisting of several items as follows: waste-efficient material procurement measures, waste-efficient materials procurement models, green materials procurement approaches of green building practices, legislation, cultural and behavior measures, and awareness measures. All of these factors are considered as independent variables, which are the one in yellow, which affects construction demolition waste reduction, the one in green as a dependent variable. In this study, the main aim is to understand and investigate the causes of a phenomenon, which is construction demolition waste reduction. In a cause-effect relationship, the presumed cause is called independent variable and the presumed effect is called dependent variable. Each independent variable and the dependent variable named constructs are represented and measured by indicators or items. These indicators were extracted based on an extensive literature review. The theoretical framework was tested and validated using a structured survey questionnaire distributed among a representative sample of Egyptian firms in Greater Cairo to assess the relationship between different factors and construction demolition waste reduction. Results and main findings. 244 responses were collected from 244 construction firms in Greater Cairo, which exceeds the required representative sample size of Egyptian construction firms in Cairo. Based on the analysis using relative importance index formula, the different construction demolition waste reduction factors were ranked based on their current applicability level in the Egyptian construction sector and their level of effectiveness towards construction demolition waste reduction. The theoretical framework was run via smart PLS software to carry multivariate statistical analysis. The theoretical framework consists of measurement models and structural model. The measurement models demonstrate the relationships between each construct and its indicators, which are the ones at the outer layer of this model. The measurement models passed all the thresholds stated by the defined evaluation criteria regarding internal consistency, reliability, conversion validity, and discriminant validity. The structural model demonstrates the relationship between each construct and the other, which is the one in the inner of this model. And it's worth mentioning that the structural model passed all the thresholds stated by the defined evaluation criteria regarding multicollinearity, the significance of path coefficients, coefficient of determination, and the effective size of independent variables. In a multiple system of the model, it was found that all the independent variables have a statistically significant positive effect on the dependent variable, which proves that the initial hypotheses proposed in this research are true and evident, and the theoretical framework is validated and can be developed into the form of a conceptual framework. The conceptual framework. Based on the results of the statistical analysis, an implementation roadmap of the conceptual framework is introduced to set the priority of applying the different factors along with their different components and measures in a sequential manner. This roadmap needs to be followed in order to achieve the goal, which is construction demolition waste reduction. This roadmap descendingly arranges the application of the different factors based on their weights and the application of their measures and components based on their importance level, resulting from the relative importance index analysis of their effectiveness. Research contribution at the industry level, main construction demolition waste reduction factors and their measures needed for overcoming the construction demolition waste problem in Egypt were introduced. Also, the importance of waste-efficient materials procurement practice was highlighted. In addition, the research provides a conceptual framework which can guide the practitioners and professional organizations in the Egyptian construction industry on adopting key measures for waste-efficient practices to reduce construction demolition waste in Egypt. At the governmental level, the research assists the government of Egypt by providing recommendations and policy guidance via the introduced conceptual framework for the improvement of current practices, legislation, culture and behavior, and awareness necessary to address construction waste problem. At the academic level, the research provides a better understanding of how materials procurement practices can contribute to reducing construction demolition waste. Moreover, it promotes structural equation modeling technique application in the construction research domain for a rigorous statistical modeling technique. Also, it will encourage more research on materials procurement practices as a research area for construction demolition waste reduction. Here is the list of publications resulted from the research. 2 papers have been published in reputable Q1 journals and 2 papers have been published in reputable Q2 journals. Also, 2 conferences papers have been published at
Dr.
conferences. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and at 8 minutes, we'll go to our judges.
Thank you.
Graham, Theo, Andrew, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Ahmed. I don't actually have a question. Just very quickly, impressed by the large sample, the detailed and robust analysis, and a very clear indication of the challenges of construction and demolition waste. That's all I actually want to say at this stage. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I think I see Graham.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. God, there's a lot covered there. It was a speedy one. Thank you. My question kind of related to a point you kind of made and then kind of carried on and pressed forwards. You mentioned the fact that, you know, one of the challenges is the behavioral aspect, getting people to change their behavior and organizations to change their behavior. So I was wondering, you know, how your conceptual framework helps people change their behavior, because it seemed to me that it was setting out phases and steps, but we still had this fundamental problem of how to change behavior.
So the behavior consists of a set of measures which indicate how people should behave and how deal with the construction materials in order to reduce the waste generated from construction material, either during to avoid illegal dumping, to rationalize the use of construction materials and use it in a sustainable manner. So it provides guidelines for an efficient behavior of dealing with construction materials during the execution of projects.
Okay. Measures and behavior. Okay, all right. Can I just ask one other thing? Did you speak to any clients?
Excuse me?
Did you speak with any clients at all? So the people that are wanting the buildings, you know,
no,
constructed or demolished, etc. No.
No,
okay.
Only we approached the construction firms which are responsible for executing the mega project, because actually the materials waste is generated either during the construction or the procurement of materials. So the people who are responsible for waste generation are the construction firms. So they are the target audience of the survey questionnaire.
Are they? Okay. I'd have thought that the designers would play a role in the choice of materials, where the materials come from, the byproduct from the materials being used, etc. And that relates to what the client's choices are. So there's a connection there.
I agree with you, but most of the research over the past decade focused on the construction and design stages for minimizing waste, as I said, but only few researchers focused on using the materials procurement approach, like
Thank you very much.
Agayi, Dr. Agayi in the UK.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you. And Ahmed, would you end the screen share so we can go to the next presentation?
Sure.
That will be wonderful. Thank you. Any other? We have a quick 45 seconds, but we'll go to our next presenter.
So did I end it?
Dr. F. Takarian. Yes, outstanding. Thank you. And Dr. F. Takarian. Yes, you are sharing your screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I will give you the red at 7 minutes.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I am pleased to be here presenting my work. In 2009, in one of the Australian major bushfire attack, a strange phenomenon happened. During the bushfire attack, the roof of the houses were pulled out and the trees have fallen because of extremely high wind velocity. In the recent Australian bushfire attack 2019, the extremely high wind velocity also flipped an 8-ton truck and killed one young firefighter. But the wind velocity predicted by the weather forecast was not more than 50 kilometers per hour. However, the wind velocity required to cause such destructive impact should be more than 100 kilometers per hour. So there has been a speculation that somehow bushfire is increasing the near ground wind velocity. So the main research question is here, why wind speed is faster than what has been predicted by the weather forecast? What are the effects of factors contributing into the enhanced wind by bushfire? These parameters include wind velocity, bushfire intensity, terrain slope, and fire source configuration. And finally, how can we predict the enhanced wind by bushfire? So the aims and objectives of this study is to develop a theory to integrate fluid mechanics and built environment to answer these key questions. So I developed a novel theory based on fundamentals of fluid mechanics to see what is going on at the interface of wind and bushfire interaction. In my theory, I just developed a novel theoretical framework based on the wind acceleration, and I decomposed the wind acceleration into 3 components: pressure acceleration, gravitational acceleration, and viscous acceleration. I also developed a 3-dimensional numerical model.
النبي ادعي لي بالله عليك، ادعي لي النتيجه بعد نص ساعه والنبي، انا في البرزنتيشن دلوقتي.
The turbulence,
ادعي لي بالله عليك، حبيبك قاعد معايا اهو. تيودور.
I used the Firefoam solver, which is an open source C++ computational fluid dynamic code to perform simulations. I validated my model against 2 sets of experimental data, and I modified the Firefoam solver to implement my theory, the acceleration theory, into the model. So here is a schematic view of my model. So I just put a fire source downstream of the inlet with the intensity of 2 megawatt per meter. And I just put the atmospheric boundary layer velocity profile with the reference velocity of 4 meters per second at 3 meters above the ground. And our model shows that the wind velocity downstream of the bushfire will exceed to 8 meters per second, almost double. So here you can see that the top diagram shows the wind velocity distribution for the case where there is no fire source here, the pure wind velocity. However, the bottom diagram shows where the fire interacts with bushfire. There is a bushfire source in the bottom diagram. As you can see, the wind velocity is 4 meters per second at the height of 3 meters, in this case, with no fire case. But the bushfire increases the wind velocity to 8 meters per second in the similar height. So the key question here is why when wind interacts with bushfire, the wind velocity increases. So here you can see that the top diagram shows the wind velocity and the bottom diagram shows the longitudinal fire-induced pressure gradient. So my theory proved that when bushfire interacts with wind, there would be a fire-induced pressure gradient being generated along the wind direction that accelerates the flow and causing the wind enhancement. You can see that wherever we have the fire-induced pressure gradient, we do have the wind velocity. So here, in order to have a more physical sense toward the phenomenon, bushfire acts like a natural fan in increasing the wind velocity. What does a fan do? A fan simply creates a pressure gradient behind and in front of the fan. That pressure gradient causing acceleration of the wind and wind generation. Exactly the same mechanism applies when we have the fire interacting with wind. Fire imposes the pressure gradient into the wind and causes the enhancement of the wind. The only difference between fire and fan is the source of the pressure gradient, which is the blade rotation in the fan case. However, my theory proved that the source of the fire-induced pressure gradient is the thermal expansion and the vorticity. So here is more practical aspects of my work. So I use the CFD simulation data and develop some correlations that can accurately predict the extent to which bushfire is enhanced for a given wind velocity and bushfire intensity. My correlations also can locate where the maximum enhanced wind occurs. My correlations can predict the effects of fire source and terrain slope on the wind enhanced by bushfire. So by the virtue of this correlation, the wind engineers and fire engineers can simply predict the extent to which wind is enhanced by the bushfire, and they do not need to just go through the complicated computational fluid dynamic simulation to do that. My correlations can be used to predict a pressure load on the building caused by the enhanced wind by bushfire. My correlations can modify the wind and building standards because the current version of wind and building standards are not taking into account the effects of enhanced wind by bushfire. All of these will lead to assisting the bushfire agencies to develop effective measures to protect human life and property. So in summary, in my PhD, I developed a comprehensive theory and numerical model that can explain why the wind is enhanced during fire-wind interaction. My model also can identify the factors affecting the enhanced wind by bushfire, which includes wind velocity, fire intensity, terrain slope, and fire source configuration. My theory also led to developing some correlations and formulations that can predict the enhanced wind by bushfire. And here is the list of my publication. I published 8 Q1 first author journal publications in the top of journals in the relevant field, and I was the recipient of Best Student Paper Prize for the prestigious Australian and New Zealand Division of Combustion Institute for my paper presented in that conference in December 2019 in Adelaide. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ishmael. Thank you so much, judges Graham, Theo, Andrew. Do you have a comment? Graham, yes.
Yeah, I do. Thank you very, very much for that. That was fantastic. How interesting and quite scary as well at the same time. Yeah. You know, the idea of the bushfire and the increase in the velocity or this you know, pressure induced gradient is fascinating. I wonder as well how this kind of situation might occur, be not transferable, but have relevance to areas where there is more built infrastructure. So it's less of an open space, but the principles, I guess, would be the same.
Yes, exactly the same. My correlations and my model can predict how, for a given wind velocity, coming wind velocity and bushfire intensity, how much wind is enhanced. So when we do know that how much is wind enhanced, so we can apply it to how much the pressure load is increased, is imposed on the buildings, and we can modify the standard. Yeah, the same.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very good.
And Theo.
Thank you, Ismail. I mean, that was an absolutely brilliant presentation. You took a very technical topic and you actually made it interesting for us who may not be that familiar with the technical side of it. What I'm really interested to know is how would this model apply in the California situation in the Los Angeles area where they have annual bushfires? How do you think this could actually help in mitigating the effects of those?
So the thing is that we can protect building against the bushfire enhanced wind. For example, the current building standards are not taking into account the enhanced wind by bushfire, but this additional wind induced by the bushfire can increase the pressure load and demolish the buildings. So we need to protect our buildings for the enhanced wind. We need to be ready for that. So my model can predict that how much wind can be increased and how much pressure load on buildings can be increased. And accordingly, the protection of the buildings can be more stronger.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you so much. If there are no more questions, we shall close off the 3 outstanding presentations. Thank you so much, everybody. And so Andrew and Graham and Theo and I will go to a breakout room, and I think I will do this correctly. And I'm going to ask Don Ward, CIB CEO, to lead a discussion for the next couple of minutes. Don, if that's okay with our 3 esteemed early career researchers. Everyone will stay in this main room, and let's see if I can do this. So Theo, Graham, and I hope we magically disappear, or you get a button on your screen to disappear with me.
Well, thank you, Mike, and good luck. If you're away for more than 3 minutes, we know you're having a long conversation with a difficult decision to make. So I would expect that to be the case. We look forward to seeing you shortly with the excitement of the results to be announced. Meanwhile, folks, yes, an opportunity for questions. If anybody wants to ask a question, please just post briefly in the chat. What I'd like to do is ask all 3 of our speakers a question really about any advice that they would give others. So we run a regular series called CIB in Conversation. I hope you've had a chance to see 1 or 2 of those interviews. We talk to leaders in the world of research and innovation in our field, and future leaders, including yourselves, I'm sure. And one of the pieces of advice we say to people is, look, there's lots of people, by the way, on this call who are either other PhD students or early career researchers, and I'm sure they would love to hear from you any single piece of advice that you would have based on your work, based on your experience, for others undertaking a PhD or in their early postdoctoral career, that you would like to pass on to people present. So Jessica, perhaps I could address that question to you first, and then I'll ask the other 2.
Thank you, Don. Great question. I think the first piece of advice to anyone out there pursuing a PhD is pick a topic that you're really passionate about. You know, they do say that a PhD is, a lot of people told me before I started that a PhD is like a roller coaster. There are ups and downs, and that's certainly true. And I think if you pick up a topic that you are actually interested in and passionate about, it can make that roller coaster ride a little bit more exciting as well. And the other piece of advice is to find a mentor. This can be your supervisor if you're lucky to have a great supervisor that can mentor you, but it can also be someone outside of your PhD supervisory relationship. So perhaps another early career or mid-career individual that you admire, whose research may or may not align with yours, but that they will help you navigate those you know, little questions about which conferences you should be going to, or even just looking over, you know, bouncing some ideas off about your journey or your experience. Also having someone.
Great answer. Thank you, Jessica. Ahmed, what about your advice?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And actually, I totally agree with Jessica. You should have good mentors. I was pleased to have two godfathers for me, Professor Ayman Ahmed Osman at the British University in Egypt and Professor Obas Ibohon at London South Bank University. And they were very good mentors and supporting during my PhD journey. And even after my PhD journey, they're still mentoring me until this moment. Second, my advice is to don't stop learning. You should be able to capture the new knowledge which is now invading the science domain, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on, and the impact of artificial intelligence on the construction industry. And then the cycle of the advancement in the science never stops, and you should be aware about day-to-day advancement in the science and the new branches of knowledge which are being appearing now in the science domain.
Thank you very much. And thirdly, Ismail, how would you like to answer the question of advice for PhD students or early career researchers?
Yeah, I've got two advice. The first one, Jessica emphasized. The thing is that you need to be interested in the field that you are working on. If you are interested in the field, you will never get fatigued of that. So it is very important. And secondly, you should never give up. The thing is that the PhD is not as straightforward. So there are lots of ups and downs, and you should be patient in each stage you are. Yep.
Great advice. That reminds me, I think that was the advice that Dr. Fred Sherat gave as well in her interview in CIB in Conversation. Fred is the co-convener of the working group that Billy Hare is convener of. We have with us the chair of our early career researcher subcommittee, Srinath Pereira, and I hope I'm not landing this on you, Srinath, but did you have any comments on behalf of the CIB board and our early career researcher network?
Thanks, Don. I think the presentations were excellent, and I'm very proud to be here to listen to these presentations. They were all three different areas, and significantly different at the same time, three very interesting topic areas and presentations. Amazing, they all managed to keep to time pretty much and explain and communicate the research effectively, and it's not an easy task to do. So this is really good, and I think it's good to see that a lot of PhD students are here and see that this is how it should be done. Very well done.
Thank you, Srinath, and I would echo that. I think Theo praised Dr. Eftekarian's presentation for making very clear to non-experts, you know, what is an extremely technical subject. But I think that would apply equally to all three presentations. We had three subjects there, very different kinds of subjects, but all with their technical expertise, and it's a key skill to be able to communicate in non-experts to non-experts what is a very technical and expert subject. So well done to everybody, and timekeeping is a crucial part of that. I was delighted that none of you fell foul of my colleagues' determination to stick to the 8-minute time scale. Billy Hare, are you online? I note your comments about being keen to read the papers and to share these presentations with your PhD students. Any comments from you?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you and Mike and whoever else has organised this event today, Don. It's a good start, and I think I'm certainly hoping there's going to be a link to today's event so I can share that with my current crop of PhD students. I had a bit of a lull, I think, possibly due to the pandemic, where I've not had many completions in the last 2 years. But I'm about to get into double figures, so that's a bit of a landmark, and with my next PhD completion. So I'm really looking forward to also proposing some new completions when they come up over the next 12 months, hopefully, for this, because it's you know, for the built environment research community, this is where you want to be, and it hasn't been like that for a while, Don. So these initiatives are I think one of many that we should be building on, encouraging and promoting in our home institutions, in our home countries. I would say it must be difficult to try and judge those PhDs, because you know, you've got one that's highly qualitative and in the project management area, then you've got others that are quite technical and quantitative, and maybe something for the future to try and expand even the, you know, the event is to consider multiple prizes for different subject areas, ones which are people and project management, and maybe an award for a more technical or technological area of research, so that, you know, you don't have trying to compare apples with what I don't know, apples and oranges, apples and pears, I don't know.
Whichever fruit you like, Billy. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's my comments, Don. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed for those words. And as you can see, folks, the judges have rejoined us. So back to Michael Beam.
Well, thanks, Don. I hope you folks had a great conversation for the last 10 minutes. I know I did with our judges. It was a really nice conversation, just reflecting on those 3 outstanding presentations. And I think that, you know, it's evident, you know, the breadth and depth of some impactful research going on around the globe. And it's really nice to see and hear that particular research. Really tough decision. Like I said before, all 3 are absolutely of high praise and worthy of an award. And our decision, the judge's decision, and again, I really want to thank Graham and Andrew and Theo. Just you know, not an easy task to go through these in the initial stages, and now here, really difficult. But our top award winner is Dr. Esmail Eftekarian. Congratulations, Esmail. I think that you know, the generalizability and the impactability of what you were doing to the built environment really impressed the judges. Your presentation really took a technical topic and really helped the judges understand and, you know, understand how it's applied to the built environment. And so I think I summed that adequately, Graham and Theo and Andrew. So Esmail, just maybe a final 30 seconds from you, and that would be great.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a really good news, and yeah, it's a fantastic news, and I am very impressed. And thank you very much for the event, and it was a great event. I enjoyed the other presentation as well, but thank you very much.
And congratulations, thank you, and congratulations, Jessica and Ahmed. Great job, and you'll be hearing from us soon, as you know, as well. And you know, we have about 4 minutes here, so Don, I don't know if you have any words, or if our judges have some final words. I thought it was a really great. I thought it was a great day.
Mike, thank you. I reiterate what you said about the quality of all 3 presenters. Many congratulations to our winner, Esmail. Well done. I'm sure we'll see a lot of all 3 of you going forward. I hope we will in CIB. And I would just like to thank the judges, please, on behalf of everybody, because you guys put in many hours of reading the presentations. It's not just about today's deliberations, and your efforts are much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah, I hope we see these 3 outstanding early career researchers very soon doing some great impactful work, and including CIB and the Global Research Network. Thank you so much. This is what it's about. Have a great day.
Mike, can I have a quick question? Will there be a link? Sorry.
Yeah, Billy, I thought you'd be having a whiskey with Joe Biden.
No, I've put them off for 10 minutes. Will there be a link made available?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I think this is going to be one of many future links that will be on the university website for PhD students of the built environment, and maybe others as well that can learn from it. Excellent job, Mike. Thanks.